Welcome back to Satisfactory. Now, I did say that I would make an episode out of making this lane system here, but that just wasn't possible because it would have been like 4 episodes. So I had to finish it up, at least somewhat. I've completed 2 of the lanes, and I'm working on the 3rd lane, which is going up there. But planning this thing was quite mind-boggling. But now that I know how it works and how it should function, I think that I might make a tutorial on it as well, because it is quite useful in terms of having a centralized storage area like this. Not that it's really centralized, since I have other storage areas around the base as well, but I don't know if you want this to be too large. You can see the height of the elevator up there. That's the final container of steel rods, which I have here. So at some point it gets mildly out of hand if you have everything gathered in one area. I don't remember the height of that, but I think it's 17 or 18 or something like that. It's 16, so it is extensively high. What I have done since the last episode, in addition to this, is that I've cleaned up certain belts. So you can see that there are some Mark IV belts, like the top one there, that is taking in the iron rods to the container that I opened. That's now a Mark IV belt, so I just merged the 2 belts that was up there. And I also upgraded the copper wire to Mark IV, and I don't remember what that is. Could it be... Guess we can zoom in and I can try to make out what it is. Ah, of course, it's screws. So I also merged the belts from the screw manufacturers that are out by the copper and concrete part of base A. Now, the belt still isn't enough to transport all of the screws I'm producing there. I'm producing 600 there, and that belt produces or transports 480. But it is plenty for what I'm using in the base currently, and when we get the aluminium, we will get the... well, I already have them. The Mark V belts that transports up to 780 resources per minute. So that belt is, by the way, slightly ridiculous in terms of speed. I tested it. Now, how am I doing this? Well, I'm leaving 3 spaces in between each of the lanes. And the reason for that is, of course, so that I can jot down lift between the like this is 3 spaces here from the container to the splitter. And this also has another benefit. If you look at this rather interesting segment I have here, this is involuted quite a bit. The area between these lanes is also enough to, if I for instance wanted to veer off a belt with a lift, say that I wanted a lift to come down from that one and then go onto this segment here, there is room for that, although it will not make a perfect turn, sadly. At least I don't think it will make a perfect turn, because I don't think that that one is aligned. No, it is not aligned, so it will not make a perfect turn. However, you could also do the lift that way, and if you don't mind a slight bend, then you should be fine. It gives you this room in between the lanes to lift things up or down. And I very consciously made 6 lanes, where the innermost lane is the lane that also takes the products out of the containers. I wasn't really planning on using this one, but then I discovered that, hey, I can use it because the products that I need are not going to interfere with one another in terms of getting that up there. And I can also use lifts. So I've set up the belt for steel pipe and iron plates. And this episode will be all about building, because unlike all of my other recent episodes, I have nothing to report in terms of things that I've done in the MAM or the hub or anything like that. So what we need next on this belt is copper wire, and finally we need cable. Now, copper wire and cable, they are beside one another in this and this segment here. And I don't think I am allowed to place a lift there because it's encroaching due to the other lift. I could place it on the side like that, but I'm not allowed to place it there. But that's fine. It would have been very helpful, like, if I could, because then I could just have taken it down and be done with it. So what I have to do is... These are for the green lines, by the way. Green lines are very helpful when you do this. Okay, so I have to get it out of the container part. Now, in case I want to add more containers, I'm not going to place it in a manner that means that it will block anything. So I very consciously place down these at a point where the opening of the container is available. I'll place down this, maybe not there. I think I'll place it down there, which would be the beginning of the next container. One of the challenges with this design is measuring. And measuring is not the most fun part, I must admit. I keep a piece of paper, again, as I mentioned in the next episode. Who would have thought in this modern day age that one would be using pen and paper for things? But I find it quite useful. So the copper wire is on level 13. So instead of having to measure it out, then I can just refer to that. So I have 5, and that would be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Now that means that the next one needs to be on 14, that would be cable, which means that I will go ahead and add that, so that would be 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. The copper wire needs to be Mark II belt because we need 112.5, a very precise number. Whereas the cable is sufficient with a Mark I belt, as we only need 15 of that. And here's where the lifts come in handy, because I don't want them to be very widespread up there. So I'll just do a lift here. And I think it would be on that. That's one of the weaknesses with the lifts that I found. It's very difficult to measure things. Mark II belt. And then the final lift here. So 2 above, 1, 2. I don't really understand why the lifts go in halves instead of wholes in term That sounded weird. Not holes as in a hole in the ground, but holes as in a whole apple. When you place a lift, this is obvious, because it can't go anywhere, but... Okay, let's do that so that it isn't red. Let's do it here. So now it is going from 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this default positioning like this would be going from 5 to 3. Then it goes to 2.5 before it goes to 2. And I'm not sure what the reasoning behind that is. I mean, it's fine, but it is very annoying when you're doing something up in that height and you try to hit something over there. The only reason I was able to do it so quickly here was because I had the belts to refer to underneath. So, might just be me randomly meowing about things. I don't know. But we might run into that problem when I now need to veer off this black powder onto the belt. Okay, so... Actually, I can put the black powder on level 3, so actually that will be ridiculously easy. How much black powder do we need? We need 45. Yeah, I'm making... Yeah, I should probably show off this, actually. I'm making compacted coal over here. At first I set up 9.6, but then I realized that I need sulfur for the black powder as well. So I removed 1.6 of them, which means that I have a little bit tiny excess of sulfur. And I did go out and overclock that coal mine. So, as you can see, the belt down there is a Mark IV belt now instead of Mark III. But after that, it's going back to Mark III because I could... If I wanted to be meticulous about it, I would remove this belt and replace that part with Mark IV and that part with Mark III because it's the splitter that's determining that it's going off to Mark III. I've also extended the concrete foundations here. I definitely needed more room due to this. And I also overclocked the sulfur mines. No, I did not overclock the sulfur mines. I had to go out there because I had placed the wrong belt speed. That's what I did. I had Mark I coming out of one of them, so I couldn't understand why the sulfur was coming in with the spacing between the sulfur. So I had to drive out and check that and discover that, oh, I've built the wrong belt. So I'm using the usual building style here. The conveyor poles there are for the belt coming in with... I think it's... yes, that is compacted coal. Looks interesting. The rest of the compacted coal is going over to the container there. I don't have any particular use for it currently. I guess I could make some power plants or something with it, but I'm planning on going into either oil generators or maybe even nuclear power. So unless we desperately need more power, which we definitely do not currently, although starting to make aluminium will change that part. They did change the power poles and various textures in this update, by the way. One of the other textures that they changed are the storage boxes. Now, while I do enjoy the new storage boxes, I'm not that convinced about the power poles. I actually prefer the old ones, but I'm hoping, since the old power poles had this like Tesla coily look, I'm hoping that that means that since they have added respawning wildlife, that this retexture might mean that they're going to use that other texture maybe in a little bigger scale and do Tesla coils, because I would love Tesla coils to kill angry doggies and wasps. But it is a bit difficult now to see the difference between a Mark II power pole and a Mark I power pole, I think. This is the old texture. They haven't updated it in here. I can't build a Mark III power pole, but the difference between the power poles is, of course, have they made... They have. Interesting. So there is no difference in the height of the power poles anymore. So the only visual cue you have in the difference now is the amount of decorations on top of the power pole. So Mark 1 has obviously no decorations, Mark 2 has those rings, and Mark 3 had... I don't know what you should describe those as. Square plating things and some extra wire and some thicker material. Just like this one has this thicker material here that is not present here. The other one had thick material all the way there. Okay, so I do like that they have made the height uniform. That's good, but it's going to be... It's going to take some getting used to. Anyways, enough about power poles and my random meowing. It isn't really meowing because I'm happy with the new power poles. It's not that. I just think the old ones looked better. I did add a new geothermal generator out at the sulfur mines. There was a geyser there. They did, in the patch, they said that you can now build geothermal generators on the geysers again. Not that, but they didn't fix the broken node that I have out by the one that I already showed you guys. I'm not sure what that is about. I probably should go bug report it. Now, what was I looking... Oh yeah, I was looking for the conveyor lift. Okay, so we are encroaching other blah blah blah. Fine. Let's build the power poles here instead then. And let's connect them up before I take down the old ones. You and you go away. You. Now, can I please build the belt? Thank you. Okay, so we have black powder. It's even on the wrong belt. Let's try that again. 1, 2. We should go to number 4. That's straight. No, it isn't straight. See? That's what I mean about the conveyor lifts and how they're, in general, a bit wonky. You've been playing for 8 hours. No, I actually haven't been playing for 8 hours. The game has been running for 8 hours. I've been doing all kinds of things. 1, 2, 3 then. Does that help? Oh, it has to be 4. But I'm not supposed to attach it to that, so it actually is 1, 2. 1, 2. And it should be attached to level 3. Ah, okay. I should stop confusing myself. Mark 1 belt with steel pipes. Mark 1 belt with iron plates. Mark 1 belt with cable. And Mark 2 belt with copper wire. Okay, the next thing that we are going to make here is beacons, I think. We have 2 manufacturing processes here that requires manufacturers. It is beacons and cartridges. Now, I think I'm going to place down the fences here, at least a few of them. And do we have room for 2 manufacturers here? We do. But I need enough space behind the manufacturer, that is from the output slot, so that I can actually veer it off. So there. Darn it, that was one too little. I'm going to use the precision button on my mouse. Come on, game, come on. That might actually be the same position it was in. Now this should give me enough, and if I'm in any kind of crisis I can always build some inverted ramps here, but I think 1 and nearly, I guess it's a, this is 8 parts, then I think I've removed three of them. So that should suffice. Now we want to build another manufacturer at the same grid, but we want to leave, the autosave is getting very aggressive. We want to leave a space in between so that I can just veer off the product from that one into a container and then directly into the first of these. So we'll make a container in here. I suspect that it wasn't a good idea to have... No, I need more spacing. Let's build a storage container. 3. And then another manufacturer. 3. Just so I have room to walk here. This manufacturer should be set to produce, it's at the very top, beacons. And this manufacturer should be set to produce cartridges. Okay, now beacons require iron plates, iron rods. Did I take iron rods onto the belt? No, I did not. I thought that I might have forgotten something. Okay. That is not ideal because that means... Oh, okay. Well, let's do this then. Just place down a few containers so that I know where to place the stackable pole. Yep, that seems like a good place. 3. I can remove these again. 3, 4. I don't even need to count presently. So I'm going up to that level and I will remove the lift. So I need to remove that belt then. And to be connected to this one, need a rail lift to take it down. 1, 2. Connect that up and connect that up. I think it's 2 more. pretty sure that's next one is iron rods. We need 7.5 of them. I want to run off in the distance here to see whether or not that is actually... It is, good. Now, if I were to need any other products from this part of the factory up there, then I would have a slight problem and would need to redesign this part, of course. But I have already been quite detailed about what I need and do not need up here on this platform, because this platform is dedicated to producing the specific items that I mentioned in the previous episode. But let me repeat that. It's the compacted coal, at least that part of the compacted coal. It's the fine black powder, which is the alternate recipe for black powder that uses compacted coal instead of coal, and it also produces double the amount of black powder per constructor. We are producing the beacons and the cartridges, obviously, and we're also producing the AI limiters and the nobelisks up here. So it's a very limited little construction area, so I don't think I will need much other products up here than the ones that are specifically needed for producing those things. And I should also add that when it comes to beacons, cartridges, AI limiters and nobelisks, with the possible exception of the AI limiters, I don't think that I'm going to need more than one manufacturer for each of these. I should check the beacons. See here, item browser. I'm using satisfactory.greeny.dev. There's a site there that's called update3.satisfactory.greeny.dev, which gives you the oversight of the new recipes. Now, the beacon is used in 3 recipes. It's used for making the object scanner, which I definitely don't need more than one of, and I don't even use that one. It's used in manufacturing cartridges, and it's also used in the process for making nuclear fuel units. However, when it comes to the nuclear fuel units, on the alternate recipe there, that one manufacturer that is over there produces 7.5 per minute, and the cartridge manufacturer is going to consume 3 per minute. And if I want to use the alternate recipe for the nuclear fuel unit that uses beacons, not that I am going to, because it also requires crystal oscillators, which is a pain to set up. So I probably will use the regular recipe for that, but anyways, if I were to use that, this specific alternate nuclear fuel unit recipe uses 0.2 beacons per minute, so that one manufacturer can sustain a whole bunch of those, so that's not going to be a problem at all. That aside, we need to figure out how to veer off the... I think it might be a prudent idea to align it with that container in case I want to transport the compacted coal somewhere, which is very unlikely, mind you, but the only thing that I can think of is maybe getting it out of the area here, because I'm going to use that as fuel for my cars. Okay, this is also a generic little tip that I can give you. When you try to connect these to the factory, look at the arrows. If it's in the wrong location, the arrows, they get out of alignment, but now it's in the right location because the arrows are in alignment. It's like they're on top of one another. So 1, 2, 3. And this should now be in alignment, as you can see. Next one. And now I get the little green At least I do for some of them. I don't... I must admit, I don't understand what's going on there. It's kind of bizarre to me. Okay, so this one needs rubber as well. We need to get that from the other side of the base. I might actually transport that underneath the base, because it's going to mess up everything up here. And I probably won't be able to do that in this episode, but what I will be able to do in this episode is at least get the beacons up and running. So, beacons require iron plates, iron rods, wire and cable. Which means that I need to discover the levels of those specific items. Let's see. The iron plates are on level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, level 5. Let's put down that... Does this... I think that creates a perfect turn. Yes. So 5. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's for the iron plates. The iron rods. 5, 6, 7, 8. They are on 8. Okay, so everything we need here are 5, 6, 7, and 8. That's not at all bad in terms of planning. Not merger, splitter, please. So that would be 5. And of course we have to autosave in the middle of that. 6. 7. And 8. Then it's just a matter of doing the same to this thing. And then we need to build... Of course it doesn't give me a green line anymore because I'm too far away. Do I need any of these items further down the line? Iron plate, iron rod, wire and cable? No. Handily enough, I do not. Otherwise I would build a merger instead. No, splitter I mean. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I thought it would be 7. So clear these off. Then build with Mark II belt. Can remove that one. I think we can remove... Why did I open that? We can remove that one as well. Don't need that marker anymore. Now let's connect up these. Somehow that feels wrong. Yeah, it is wrong. Get a sense of that after a while. It looks straight from underneath, but then you just get the sense that something's not quite right. There we go. We need a Mark II belt. Then we need this one. Now to be absolutely certain, does this one connect to that one? Yes, it does, and it also looks to be straight, so we can remove all of the ones we don't need in these stacks. Then we can connect it up. And the Mark II belt for the wire. There we go. We bounce up here. And now it's just a matter of lifting the things down. And of course, power is always a good idea as well. Now, since we're doing the power on this specific angle here, let's middle click to get the correct power pole. And we can get the power pole there. Actually, I want it to be one further. And then we can connect it up. Now, I do like to have the power pole connected from the right side. It's a new pet peeve of mine, instead of having it crisscrossing through the entire thing. What do you mean no power? I think I've done something very creative here. Let's do this one more time. Thank you. And then this connects to this, and this one connects to that. But not much better. Okay, so this one is now making beacons, which is exactly what we wanted it to do. I don't think I want to... Oh. I've replaced that. I don't think I want to bother with lifts here. It's such a small distance. I can jump over the belt if I really need to walk across here. I was not prepared for them to be balancing on the belt like that. That looks absolutely ridiculous. You'd think they would be lying down, but no. Ah well. Whatever makes the devs happy, I suppose. I'm not sure it would be possible to balance them like this on a moving conveyor belt. Or maybe I should say I am quite certain that it would be impossible to move them like this on a conveyor belt. They would fall down. Period. Anyways, this thing is now producing 7.5 parts per minute, so we get plenty of beacons, which is exactly what we want. In this one, I can just stash this in there. In this one, we're going to produce the cartridges. This requires beacons, of course, and then it requires the steel pipe, and then it requires the rubber, which I'm going to transport here one way or another. But we are reaching the end point of the episode. But before I end the episode, let's go have a look at the oil product area and see if I can't find a way to transport those goods to a more sensible location, because one of those containers also contained quick wire, and I don't want to have that area here also. Okay, so the only thing I'm using from here currently is plastic, which I'm using for the circuit boards, and that production line is currently stale. I need this very intricate system for getting these things onto the belts that they belong to. These lifts and so forth. I don't really need the conveyor poles, but I've just left them there. But I wonder if I maybe should... What's this? Why is there a container here? You. Find somewhere else to bother someone. Not there. The other way. No! Sounds like a disturbed whale. Yeah, that direction, please. I mean, they're peaceful and all that stuff, but they are very annoying. So what I was thinking was maybe I could transport these, instead of directly across here, down to the river side there, and then around the corner. And I could either collect them up into this mall here, but I don't think I want to do that. I could, there's room for it. I could elevate down and catch the instead of having the lift veer off the way it does, aka that way, I could just take it in that way instead. You know, I really don't know. That is something that I'm going to have to think about. One thing that I do know is that I would prefer to avoid getting them. There is room under here. Can also replace the foundations with 8x2 instead of 8x4. I would get the rubber through the base or underneath the base. Then I run into this area. Should be fine though. Could come down under here and maybe go out through the wall there. Then I'd be stuck with getting it up from there, and I guess it's possible. I'm going to have to think about that. For now, I'm just happy that we're making beacons, and that our power consumption is not really that bad. What else did I need? Yeah, the steel pipes and the beacons are already here. I can actually connect the beacons right away. As of course that power pole is going to cause issues for us. Fine. There. Here we go. Now the magic beacons are being transported into this one. So it's just a matter of connecting up the other parts. Yeah, I think I'll just do that between episodes. I have no idea what the next episode is going to be about, but probably it's going to be, it's definitely going to be a building episode like this one, but it might actually be about aluminium. Depends. I should get those two bauxite nodes connected up and the bauxite down to the refinery area. I'm not sure how I'm going to build the aluminium refining and all that stuff. I also need copper for that, because I need copper to make the alclad aluminium sheets. It's getting complicated. Actually, this is complicated enough already, but I do have copper nodes that I haven't tapped. One out by the coal outpost and another one at the other side of the mountain there with the base A. So that would be, if I overclock those, I think they're normal nodes. If I overclock those, I would have 480 copper ore, which should suffice to make a lot of alclad aluminium sheets. So, but I think that's about it for now. As usual, feel free to leave any questions and comments in the commentary section. I do enjoy interacting with you guys, and it is also very useful. Some of the comments are highly useful to me. So I also hope that you enjoyed this interesting mall/lane system. It will probably look even more interesting when I get stuff veering off in even more directions from these lanes. But with that, thank you so very much for joining me, and I will see you all in the next episode.